we already had it set up with our bank. We were pre-approved for $3.5 million apartment complex.
Oh, wow.
And no money out of our pocket. That's just straight equity from.
Wow. We're live. Shannon, Charlie, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks for having us.
Pleasure to re-meet you. It's the second time through, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of funny how at least I met you guys. Do you want to tell that story a little bit?
Sure. Like, I just got a random call from Matt one day, and he was asking me about my apartments, and I started asking, I think, him just as many questions. I'm like, well, what are you up to? What's this about? What you got going on? And I just like talking about investing in multifamily anyways. So we kind of just hit it off, and then you invited us out for lunch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it started. Just random phone call.
That's right. Funny. Yeah, cold call.
Yep.
Before I made that call, truth be told, I'm like, I don't even know if I can afford or buy this deal. But something about it to me, I'm like,
It's interesting.
it's just always making the calls when you don't want to. And you're like, oh, I'll make this call.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, hey, do you buy deals too? Or I asked you that if you guys were looking too.
Yeah.
So it's funny how that started. But nonetheless, thanks for jumping on. So
Yeah,
one of the
absolutely.
episodes of the Deal Ranch, like we talked about earlier, you guys have a really cool story. You're realtors, your husband-wife team, which is cool, but you're investors.
Yeah.
Unique background. So engineering, criminal justice. We can kick off with, you know, how you guys transitioned from Virginia down to here, how you got into real estate. But then after that, spend a bunch of time talking about that deal you did down
Yeah.
there. 27 or
Absolutely.
29 units?
24.
24.
on Surfside. That's
24
Okay.
on Surfside.
Yeah.
The
Cool.
first deal was 29, but we're talking about the 24.
Yeah,
So.
we're talking about the 24 unit.
And they're
Yeah.
all 2-bedroom. But anyways, so I was a structural engineer working out of Raleigh, North Carolina.
And I was in Virginia working for a family business with our 3 boys.
Right. So I pretty much traveled back and forth. On the weekends, I'd come home for 2 days
Yeah.
and spend time with them, and then go right back. And it was a 4-hour trip one way. So, I mean, we didn't have very much time.
No.
And so, you know, we actually enjoy each other's company quite a bit. So that was like a really hard time for us when I was working out of Raleigh, North Carolina.
Absolutely.
So we were both kind of racking our heads like, how do we get out of this situation that we're in?
Right.
Because there wasn't a whole lot of work in Virginia in the Appalachian Mountains. It's coal mines or Walmart. That's
Sure.
pretty much your 2 choices.
Yeah.
So on those long rides back into Raleigh, North Carolina, I'd be listening to podcasts about investing, and then I got on this kick where I was just listening to nonstop multifamily investing, and I got hooked into a couple podcasts on that, and it just started snowballing into, I really think we can do this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Shane was like, well, it takes money to make money.
To make money.
Exactly.
And a lot of people believe that. And it's somewhat true, somewhat not. I mean, you can get creative. There's so many
Yeah.
different ways you can make a deal happen.
Well, plus we'd never really done anything with real estate yet. I mean,
Right.
at the time we had just bought our townhome down there. It was 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and we
Oh,
just
cool.
bought it to live in, just a
Yeah.
place to come visit him
Yep.
and him to sleep.
So we started what we call is house hacking,
Yep.
where you rent out your bedrooms you're not using.
Mm-hmm.
And so at one point, it was a 3-bedroom apartment. I'd rented out all 3 apartments, or all 3 rooms, and then I was sleeping in the closet downstairs.
Oh, wow.
I
Yeah.
bought
It
Single
was
si-
a
single-
twin mattress, and we put it underneath a clothes rack, so it's a coat closet. So all his clothes were above him, and he was sleeping on this twin mattress underneath him, with
Wow.
earplugs in his ears and everything, so he could sleep.
It was kind of extreme,
What?
but
Yeah.
we were that desperate. The only reason why I told you that is
Yeah.
because that's the level of desperate, we were.
Well, that's where
We
innovation
wanted-
comes from, is
Yep,
disparity.
yep. So necessity is the mother of all inventions.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, we started looking at deals And the best thing to do if you're starting investing is just start analyzing deals, whether it's on the MLS or off the MLS. Just start analyzing it, see if it would make sense. Look at the taxes, look at local rents surrounding that that property, and
start learning what cap rates are, what NOI is.
Yeah.
Because most people don't know what that stuff is.
Cash on cash, whatever your metrics are, you like. Yeah.
Banks love cap rates.
I agree. Yeah. So what year was this? So you buy the house hack. What time was this?
So
what
we
year was
bought the
this?
house hack in 2016.
Okay.
And then we didn't buy the first set of apartments till 2018. And then the deal you were talking about was in 2019.
So for 2 whole years, we were just racking our brains, saving every penny.
Yep.
Away from each other, miserable.
So then finally, I just brainwashed Shannon into believing that we could do it.
He forced me to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We listened to Bigger Pockets all the time and a couple other podcasts, and he was like, "Have you listened to
Grant Cardone?" I don't know your feelings about him. Some people have some different opinions, but I just listened to him just purely as an investor.
Yeah.
I got a lot from him, motivation-wise.
Sure. He's a super sharp guy.
I mean, he's successful.
Dude's a genius
How he got
and
there,
salesperson.
I'm not going to get into that.
Right.
But,
he's a savage.
Yeah. So that's kind of like our mentors, Robert Kiyosaki. And then there's another guy, Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh, his partner. What is his name?
Anyways, his partner is really good. If I think of it, I'll
No.
tell you. But anyways, those were kind of our mentors. We didn't really have anybody physically that we knew that was doing that at the time. Because in 2016, being a landlord was not cool at all.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted
It was
to
not
do
desired.
Yeah.
And nobody, real estate, especially multifamily, wasn't sexy.
No, not at all.
But
so that's what I was going to ask. So you buy the one, and then the brainwashing commences. He wants you to, hey, we can do this, right? And I think whether it's sports, you're competing, there's always that gap of like, oh, can I do this? We all have those fears, right, or limits. And then you realize, hey, it's not that complicated.
Right.
Or it is complicated, and you just figure it out. But what interested you most about continuing to do it or look for a new deal? Was it the money component? Was it just the thrill of the deal? Was it for the family? Was it, hey, we can scale our life?
All of the above.
All great reasons.
Yeah.
The thrill of it for me, I don't know if you experienced it, but it was such a rush. Going into the deal, it was kind of nervous. It's like jumping off the cliff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or being pushed off.
Because,
That's
it's fail or succeed. There's no in between.
Yeah.
There's not.
No, there wasn't.
I mean, the deal is either you're getting on a ship that's going to sink or it's going to take you to your destination.
Yep.
So for me, once it closed, it's the realization, wow, we are several $1 million in debt.
Right. Well, we're totally different because that was the thrill for him was after it closed. For me, I love the paperwork. And once we get to the closing table, it's I know it's going to work. There's no question in my mind of whether it's going to work. It's we've done all the research, went through everything, and it's going to work. Now let's just implement it and move on.
Yeah.
So I like looking at the numbers and making sure that it's going to cash flow properly. It's going to pay for itself, and looking at market rents. And she's a big paperwork person. You give her all.
Yeah. I am.
When you go under contract during the due diligence period of time, you have to get every piece of paperwork, anything that they paid for, expenses, and try to make sense of it. So I don't know how much we should get into that part because we got into, she found some stuff that was very shady.
Really shady.
Of the current property manager. I won't say any names. But
sure. Yeah, we can leave it out. Yeah. Well, this is a good transition then. So let's jump into this deal. So we've got 24 units, 2019, right? You guys closed May.
When we bought them, yeah.
And then it was, can we go over numbers of the deal? Price?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So $1,675,000. So it was around 50 and change a unit, which is.
Yeah. Well, we actually started out as the actual offer was 1.7.
Okay.
And we talked them down because of some HVAC units. They dropped $25,000 because of some HVAC that had not been.
And that was
serviced
after we were
properly.
under contract.
Mm-hmm.
So that he did that just out of goodwill, I guess, because it was a long shot, but I figured I was like, all we can do is say no.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I was like, can you take $50,000 off? And then our agent came back. Well, yeah, he took $25,000. Does that work? I'm like, I didn't think he was going to do anything.
I know.
So
it's better than nothing.
Just because you're under contract doesn't mean you can't ask for more, especially if you find something.
Especially after inspections
during
and everything.
due diligence or whatever.
So going back in time to 2019, how many units did you have? Like, how long were you looking for this deal?
So in 2018, we bought 29.
You bought 29
units?
We
had 29 units in May of 2018. We still had an on-site property manager at the time. We let her go Halloween of 2018. So he's working 2 jobs.
Got it.
Still as an engineer and set up his office at those apartments.
I was still an engineer when we bought the first set.
And I still had my job.
Working remotely.
But we had, by the time we got to Halloween, we knew we couldn't keep her on anymore, but we got to the point where we were making headway and knew, hey, we can truly make this work to continue going. And so we just kind of, the agent that we used at the time, she's still a good friend of ours. We just I called her up, was like, if you see anything, let us know.
So you entered the new year or 2019 into 2018 thinking, hey, we already stabilized this other deal. We want to do this again. So was there a certain goal? Like, hey, we want XYZ target, number of units?
Our goal is still to get to 100 doors.
Got it. Okay,
We're sitting at 53, and we want to get to 100.
Got it.
Real estate's kind of funny. It's like you got to be opportunistic.
Yes.
Because sometimes all the deals are in this one period of time, and you can't spread out, if our goal is 100 apartments, we can't just go every 2 years buy something, because sometimes the numbers don't make sense.
That's right.
And you can't pull the trigger unless they do. And it doesn't matter interest rates. If the numbers don't make sense, you can't do the deal.
No, never.
There's still deals to be done right now, even though interest rates are rising. You just have to be more picky, and there's less of them. But 2014 to
rates were lower
before COVID would have been
perfect.
Perfect
time. Yeah.
There'll be another good window here soon too. But so Shannon, you or what Charlie said, this deal specific, you did a lot of the numbers, or you knew most of it.
So it was mostly my baby. Yeah.
How did you see a picture of the deal? I guess it sounds like a realtor brought it to you, but
she did.
Which is unique because it's a multifamily deal, so that can come from brokers or LoopNet, or it could be posted somewhere else. But when you see the property first, or you saw initial financials, how did you guys know you wanted to make an offer? Like, how did it pass the sniff test?
Well,
so I will say, not to interrupt, this was off market.
Yeah, I was going to say, this
cool.
was
This
off
is like
market.
you called me.
Yeah.
Love it.
The same scenario.
She happened to just drive by it going to the beach, and she said, I really think y'all love this place. And so we're like, okay, well, let's see what we can find out. And so she actually went into the property acting like she was going to rent one of the units, got into one of them, saw what they looked like, took pictures, asked them what they were renting for, and then we reverse engineered from there to basically figure out about what their rent would be. And then from there we can figure out basically what would be a good number to make an offer on.
So there was no for sale sign. So did you guys, your realtor said, hey, I think you'll like this.
Yep.
And then you guys who reached out to the owner then?
She did.
Because she was still representing us at the time, but we were kind of teaching her about cap rates, investing, pretty much taught her, and if she hears this, she probably...
Oh, she agrees to it.
Probably
she knows
agreed
we
to
did.
it. But we pretty much taught her the ropes
right.
on multifamily, because we didn't have our license then.
No.
And we taught her pretty much how to bird dog. Are you familiar with that term?
I mean, in a different way, I guess.
How it sounds like you're sending her on a mission to kind of flush out the birds.
That's right. Right.
Shoot them or whatever.
Yeah.
But she was going around, and we told her what to look for. So she drove by this one property, and she's like, that's what they've been talking about.
Yep.
So
I love that.
She came back to us, and we're like, perfect. This is exactly what we want.
And it was so funny because then she she got a hold of the owner who lived in Charleston, and I'm not going to mention any names with that one either, but he said, you know, she called him up and said, hey, I got people interested in buying your property, and he said, if it's not $2 million, I don't want to hear it. And she told us that, and we're like, we're not going to $2 million. It makes no sense there. And we told her 1.7 and told her why. And me and her actually put pretty much a spreadsheet together and a PowerPoint report for her to present to him, showing why it wasn't, because he hadn't seen the property in 10 years. He hadn't seen how it kind of had been let go.
Yeah.
And once he saw that, and he was like, well, it's making a loss on my sheet anyway. That's fine. We'll just sell it.
Really?
Yeah, that 1.7 was a really tough.
It was a tough barrier, but
It was. But I told him, I was like, well, through our agent, I was like, the numbers can't make sense any higher than 1.7.
No.
There's just no
And they
way.
couldn't at the time.
And we just showed him his rents, and it's like,
Yeah,
I mean,
it had been vastly under rented,
her
under
their
maintenance.
property manager was stealing from him, basically. That's why the rents were so low on paper.
On paper.
So she was taking the additional amount.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
But he found that after we went under contract.
Yeah, I think he found that out.
It's a tough surprise.
Because
Yeah.
I didn't tell him.
Wow.
I found it out and told my attorney.
I mean,
I did that.
it's not our place.
But it's not my place
No.
to call him and say, hey, you're being embezzled from.
Wow. So, what was the runway on the deal itself? So you liked it. Obviously, it's a great location. I've driven by it before I called you guys. Was there runway in? You thought you could raise rents? Were you going to renovate the units? What was the plan, and why did it make sense?
Our model on any remodels is only remodel when you have to.
Okay.
So we don't go in and revamp the entire property to start with.
Yep.
We only revamp them when people move out, and if it increases the rent. If it don't increase the rent, leave it alone.
Yep.
I mean, that's just the way we look at it. But we also like the fact that it was a higher class property than what we had. It moved us up to a C-class property, a higher C-class.
Yeah.
So we like that too.
So, and we don't really buy property and then fix it up, like you know what I mean?
I'm not trying to
Like a value add
anything,
play,
yeah.
you're saying? Yeah.
We don't have that kind of capital to
Sure.
do that at this time.
Right.
Maybe in the future, I'd love to do that. So,
Yep.
I mean, that concept is perfect for investors with
Yeah.
bunch of investors, but for us, we wanted something to make money right
Yeah.
off the bat, because we were taking our last dime
Yeah. Love it.
and buying it.
Yeah, I mean,
so
we
didn't have
took
anything.
a mortgage out on our home to buy
Like,
that one.
if the properties didn't pay for themselves at that point, we were screwed.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe in the future,
Yeah,
we
that
would buy
was a true
something like
sink or
that
swim deal there.
and fix it up and then raise the rents. But we were lucky enough because it was off market. He was out of state. He wasn't really attached to the property.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
he had inherited it from his father, so he didn't even buy it himself.
So for him, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. But for us, we were lucky enough to realize that the rates were very undervalued. Like we can probably get like 200 or 300. It worked out to be a lot more after COVID, but
yeah.
So we went to the bank, and we already worked with MC&V Bank before.
Yeah, it's a
They're
bank
out of Virginia.
West Virginia.
Was it
Welch, West Virginia.
West Virginia. And so he kind of knew us before, but we still had to prove the deal to him.
Oh yeah.
Because it's not just him; it's the board.
So they have a board at their bank to where they actually he has to take everything in front of their board, and the way banks work, and I'm sure you know, is that they all have to have different pieces of pies.
Right.
So they, in the coal mountains up there, they don't have many multifamily, so that we kind of fill their pie with that.
Yeah.
And so to be able to present that to his board, we had to do a report, which he just looked at me and was like, "This is your baby. I don't got time to do it." So
I was involved with it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing it. I'd look at it like, we need to
Yeah.
this, or how about this?
Yeah.
Whatever, but
So I'm not sure if you're familiar with how long due diligence. So due diligence with a multifamily units is an average of 90 days. Just figure 3 months of your life is through into this whole start to finish. Right, exactly.
know.
It may be
Do you
more,
know?
maybe less.
You can choose what you want to put in the deal, you're saying?
Well, for the big deals, you need enough time.
You
because
need plenty of time.
their property manager has to get all the information. Their accountant has
We've
to get
put
all
as
the
little as
information.
45 days for like
And
a
that-
16-unit deal.
Maybe that'd be
Yeah.
That's a little bit smaller.
depending on what
45
the
days
seller
would be
needs.
great, but
our
Yep.
seller wasn't in a hurry.
Exactly.
and it was off
Yeah.
market, so
Yep.
they didn't have all the paperwork.
Yeah, it wasn't
readily
primed and
available.
ready, put
Right.
together.
Right.
So this is one of the coolest parts of the story when I went to lunch with you guys, was this exact product or piece, the debt piece, structuring the deal. Because one thing I had Bill on last week, it's like when you start buying deals or investing or whatever it is, right? When you start real estate, you think it's so rigid. You're like, oh, I go to the bank and I have to put 25% down, and it's this structured thing. It's just black and white, kind of like what you said earlier about. It's almost the concept that you don't know how to do any of it, so you don't know where to start. But once you get past standard banking 25% down or 75 LTV, there are really no rules or ropes. And what's cool about this is your bank, your bank back home, didn't have any, they weren't lending any money in this asset class, right? Multifamily.
Right, exactly.
So it allowed you guys to get a better loan, but I think you put less down. So how did it all shake out? Do you remember?
20% down.
We put 20%
Oh, cool.
down for that,
And a
and that's a
20-year
20-year note.
And
Wow.
so basically we
Do you remember the rate? What was the rate?
So at first it was 5 1/4,
Okay.
and then through COVID they actually allowed us to drop it to.
we didn't refinance.
They just dropped our rate for
to
us
4
to
1/4.
4 1/4.
Wow.
So that's locked in for another 3.
Yeah, 3 more years. So they do 5-year locks
Yep.
before.
So it's a 5-year term and a 20-year AM schedule on
Yep.
the loan? Okay.
Yep.
Very cool.
So we're hoping that rates kind of come down in
Yeah.
the next, like, year or two.
Before it goes back
But
up.
I will say, I keep on running over
You're
this with my chair. But even if the rates don't come down, we've already
Yeah, it
stress
still makes
test the property at its current cash flow. And even if the cash flow reduces, we're still fine
Yeah.
because we bought this property expecting way less than what we're getting now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because of what they had reported as their rents. Like I was saying, we had to provide this detailed report for 3-year projections for this property.
for the board.
For the
Yep,
board
yep.
before they would even
So
look at
you
it.
presented your underwriting. You sold it to the bank. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Really
had
common
to say
process. Yeah.
And
how
we
much
had
we were going to raise rents, when
pretty
we were going to raise
conservative.
them.
When you present stuff to a bank,
Mm-hmm.
do not
Don't be
overplay.
aggressive.
Don't.
Yeah.
You got to be conservative. They'll pick up on that.
Yeah.
And that will scare them off.
Mhm.
If they think you're reckless,
And you're full of it.
yeah,
Right.
and you better have a good answer ready when they ask how do you prove that projected rent.
Sure.
Exactly.
So we had comparables of rentals around it. We had very conservative stair stepping up the rent
Yeah.
to market levels because a lot of people were locked in a 1-year lease.
Yep.
So we had a plan for each tenant in each apartment.
Right.
We're like, this is in this period of time they're going to be up to this, and then slowly get it up. I think the average rent in there was around like $850, $875.
Yeah.
And then we had.
What are they now? What are rents today?
We just rented one out for $1,500.
Holy shit.
So
Yeah.
and that's the going rate. That's
Yeah.
the last 7 or 8 that we've rented.
Are they 2 and 2s? What's the
For
makeup?
2 and
of-
1s.
2 and 1s.
Ones, yeah.
How big are they?
It's 898 square foot total.
Oh, cool. They're nice size units.
Yeah.
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 So you bought them and they were $850 and now $1,500. That's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah, we weren't
They were
Especially
even-
on a good, if you have a good debt on the deal.
Yeah,
Our
well, that's
projection was
average. There were some at
2000
725.
end of 2019 we're going to have it up to an average of $950. 2020 we had it I think at $1,050, and then 2021 we had it at I think 1,100 average.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we blew those projections out of the water,
Yeah.
not because of anything we did. It's
No,
just
Yep.
obviously,
the market.
risk-
Yeah.
the market's
So
going
you
up
can't
But
really predict
that's the great thing about that though is
We're
you
just-
do have to do a market assessment at least once every 3 months to make sure that you are keeping up with market rents because
Right.
you don't want to be under rented.
Right, and so when you analyze the deal, you got to work with right now, here and right now. It doesn't matter what happened in the past, what's going to happen in the future. If the deal makes sense right now, then you should do it.
Yeah.
Because I don't care what all these gurus tell you. no one can predict the market.
No.
And when you think you
Can.
no, you don't. I mean,
Yeah.
if someone tells you in 18 months it's going to be
I know.
crap
You
show
need to
out
run
there.
because
Right.
they don't know what they're
It's
talking
like,
about.
no, you don't know. I mean, nobody predicted the rent rises and home increases, in 2020.
Right. Yeah.
Was there anybody calling for that?
No.
They were saying this market's top.
I know.
Get out now.
Right.
And people were selling, and then I feel
Thank
bad
God
for
we
those
did.
people
That's
that
exactly
sold
right.
in 2019.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine? And seeing like
Yeah. I know.
50% increase after you sell.
Absolutely.
Well, that's like going through tax records when I'm looking at deals, and you go through and just see who owns it, looks it up, and you just see all these super low purchase prices in 2018 and 19, and you're like, God damn, man, like
Oh, yeah.
to be getting 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 unit deals, like in town in good areas, B-class properties for like under $100,000 a unit,
Isn't that
or
crazy?
under 70, or
Okay.
under 60. You're like, these people are stealing these properties back then.
Back
And
then.
then now, people are
But now they want-
125, 150,
Exactly.
170 a unit, and you just can't make money with rates
No.
the way they are. And even rents are obviously have trickled back a little bit in the last couple months. We have a unique market down here, right? Just with it being the number one fastest growing city in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
country a couple years ago. So then all the big money
Isn't that
flocked
crazy?
down here, ton of development. We have this weird now volume saturation where there's a ton of units, but still so many people coming down. So it will even out, and I think we'll have a
I think we're
shortage.
still in
Yeah.
the top 5, right?
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
every year.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I
something
mean,
to say
Horry
in
County's
America.
still
100%.
growing crazy.
yeah. I think we're going to get another 100,000 people in the next 5 years. So
Yeah.
when you see, I think it's kind of funny. You see these big buildings on 17, right near like 65th Avenue, and people are like, "Oh, there's so many units there. Who's going to live there?" It's like 300 units. That's only 400 people, 500
Oh, I
people,
know.
and we're getting 100,000. So the apartments always look bigger than what
Oh yeah.
it is,
absolutely.
which
Absolutely.
is funny. So after you buy the deal, was there anything that stuck out? You get settled, dust settles. Obviously, you have the emotional roller coaster. You sign. This is a monumental moment in your lives, obviously. It's got to work, which is a beautiful thing
Oh, yeah.
to do. You get there, do the deal, get settled. Was there anything like, oh, this part of the property environmentally there's an issue with, or hey, rents were easier to get up quicker? Did we have tenants leave? Was there anything peculiar, or did anything in the underwriting not flesh out for better or for worse after you closed?
I feel like all the numbers were there.
Cool.
We did a pretty good job.
Sweet.
Yeah, yeah.
She did a fantastic job of flushing out all the problems.
Takes a lot of time to do good underwriting.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
really
the-
sift through a
the
deal.
biggest shock
But you gotta
if
love
you're going to
paperwork.
self-manage, if you don't have a property manager, which we fired that property manager for good reason,
Yeah.
but is figuring out the tenant dynamics
Mm.
of what's going on in those apartments.
Yeah.
Because before we're just looking at paperwork, numbers, and numbers don't yell at you,
No.
but tenants do.
Yes.
So we found out real quickly,
Yeah.
we had some problem tenants that we had
Yeah,
to
we did.
Yeah.
I mean, we
shake
went
out.
from, it seemed like a weekly basis, cops were being called.
And
Yeah.
that's
Like,
bad.
literally.
That's
Yeah.
bad
2 and
for
3 times
business.
a week
If you
is
got
really
cops
bad.
coming all the time.
I think the first week we were there, second week we were there, a lady overdosed in her car.
Oh my God.
In the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we had to deal with a lot of just getting rid of, like he said, troubled tenants, inherited tenants.
They were just putting anybody in every.
yeah,
Mhm.
anybody
Okay.
that would pay what
So
they
now,
wanted
if
to.
the cops are called, it's like maybe once.
We-
They're talking about 24 apartments, maybe once a year now.
Yeah, at best.
Yeah.
That's really, really good. I
Yeah.
don't care if you're in B or A class properties.
100%.
The cops are going to get called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
normally it's not like a violent type thing. It's
It's
just a
normally domestic
dispute.
disturbance.
Sure.
And it could be something as stupid as their kid hit my kid.
Now, the only
but-
thing I will say that was interesting when we first got it was everyone had to get their own electric in their name, because the previous
The landlord paid it
previous-
before.
No, the previous property manager put everything in her name,
Oh.
and then got the tenants to pay her the electricity bills.
You see how this was an issue, right?
Wow.
Exactly. So
She
that
She was making out like a bandit all these years.
Exactly. So that made it very interesting to have to do that. But I mean, it was hard at first, but it was an interesting transition. That was something we did not know
Yep.
until we
See?
signed the deal.
Yeah. But there are always those after the deal.
Yeah,
but sometimes for better or for worse, you know?
Absolutely.
And another thing we did, we cleaned up, they were supplying cable, basic cable.
Yeah.
And we were thinking, well, we're looking at comparable rentals nearby. I'm like, nobody else is doing it. Why are we doing it?
Right.
We're not making any money. It doesn't seem like they appreciate it.
And nobody really watches cable much anymore.
I'm sure
streams everything.
Yeah.
No.
I was like,
Like,
this is a
waste.
lost cause. This
Yeah.
isn't helping us. It's not helping our tenants. Like I walked into several apartments and they're like, I don't watch cable.
And
Right.
they would
I'm
just
like,
have the
but I'm
boxes
paying
put
for
to
it.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what are we doing here?
I know.
So I was
We
like,
did
let's
get
get
rid
rid
of
of that. So cost cutting, more you can make this property that you invest in more productive. That makes the valuation go up.
Yep.
And you directly affect that. So just by not paying for cable, probably the
Yeah.
valuation went up. You know,
Yeah.
I can't put in probably a number, but it's
Right.
substantial. It's
100%.
probably enough to pay
Yeah.
for
Well, I
my
mean,
truck.
it was like $1,000
You know?
bucks a month we were paying for cable.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
It's
you add
crazy.
that into the profit
Mm-hmm.
column, and the valuation goes up for
Oh,
that
yeah.
property.
And then immediately.
That's what I love about multifamily, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
You directly affect
Absolutely.
the valuation of that
100%.
property by
And we-
your cash flow.
The other thing we did was we actually, we have 4 sons now because my nephew lives with us. We brought all them over there and we cleaned everything up.
Oh,
Got rid
wow.
of all of the dead palm trees and all that stuff and actually made it
Probably need to
look
do that
like
again.
It's a
new
great
place.
property.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So nice.
Now.
Well, we need to go back out there.
Yeah, well, it is springtime.
It's
They got
springtime.
2 days off that next week. We'll,
Yeah.
There's some work
Take
that
'em
needs to be
over
done. It's like a farm.
Everybody laughs when we bring
It's like
the
a
boys
farm.
over.
There's
but
always something to be done. But yeah, that's what we did.
So then, we can wrap up here if we want to, but what is the plan for this deal? And then we can talk about your future goals too and getting to 100 units. But one thing you mentioned to me when we went out to lunch, probably because I was trying to still buy the deal, but I said, hey, would you ever sell it? And you guys are like, no, we're long-term holders, which I love.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
what I'm interested in doing too, right? Because as long as you have good debt and it's, got a good rate, right, a long enough AM, you can make your money and live a good life on the cash flow or keep adding it and build a business. But also, you have a lot of equity you've gained in that deal. So if you're not going to exit and sell, is there ever, will you ever try to recapture some of that equity and cash out refi?
yeah.
Talk
Absolutely.
about it. What's the plan?
So
That's your market.
we've
Go
been
ahead.
looking since 2020.
Mm.
We were looking before the pandemic. Well, I mean, I guess it really
Yeah,
ramped
well,
up
yeah,
in early 2020, but
Yeah.
we were looking immediately after we bought Surfside
Yeah.
Apartments. That's what we did the last time.
Yeah.
Before that, we're always looking, but we already had it set up with our bank. We were pre-approved for $3.5 million apartment complex.
Oh, wow.
And no money out of our pocket. That's just
But-
straight equity from
And
our apartment.
this was an off deal,
It was an off-market
It's
deal as well, but
off-market.
then they
And we
just
talked
couldn't
to
pull the
them.
trigger.
and they have the same mentality as us. It's like, okay, that's fine. We'd like to 1031 exchange this, but there's nothing to exchange
Yeah.
it with.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do? I was like, well, the offer's on the table if you want it. And now rents have gone up so much since 2020.
Yeah.
That number's probably not even close to 3.5 now.
No,
so
yeah.
we got to start fresh now and
Mm-hmm.
kind of look at something else.
And
we
anything on the
tried-
market is
we tried
ridiculous right now.
To refinance and cash out and put that money to
Yeah.
use because,
Yeah.
I mean, in my mind, that is the biggest waste of equity. It's just sitting.
It's
there
sitting in the
doing
dirt.
nothing.
I think
Yeah.
about that all the time.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
It really
And I hate
is.
it, but there's nothing.
The
we
bank's
can
just
do
sitting
about
on your money and it
it. Yeah.
depreciates each year with our currency, and it's
Oh yeah.
a lot of money you have in a deal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But in the same token, you don't want to get over
But
leveraged.
there's safety in having a good amount of equity in the deal. It's not like you're ever going to get hurt from having it there. You
No,
know,
it's just-
it's an ego thing a little bit, or
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh,
a-
we could stretch this to get more. But
It's a
especially in this
what
current
if, yeah.
environment, it's nice to have that security there because there's a lot of guys and girls that did deals in the last couple of years with razor thin margins because they were
Can you
syndicating,
imagine?
pulling the money, and then now this whole even if you're like, hey, we have a good rate on our deal. If you have rents that are going down right now, or like maybe your term is up and you got to go back and get a new rate at 8 instead of 3.25, you're underwater. But for you guys in a good deal,
Yeah.
that risk doesn't really present itself as much, which is good.
The big thing is to have a little nest egg of cash
Yeah.
as well. I hate sitting on any cash, but when you own several apartments, you got to have something.
Yeah, you do.
In case, let's say, nobody pays rent because of something like COVID. I mean,
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
We were truly
Bills
blessed
still
with
have to
that, to where we only had a couple.
But we were
that
scratching our
did
heads
do
like,
that.
well, what if we don't pay and we can't evict anybody? The magistrate told us we couldn't evict anybody.
Yeah.
That was horrible.
Oh yeah, that was for a good year. We weren't
Yeah.
allowed to evict anybody, and
Very
once,
scary.
Once
Yeah.
one tenant finds out about it, they all
I
find
know.
out about it.
Yeah. You give them an inch, they take a mile, so to speak.
Luckily,
Yeah.
our tenants didn't
We have really good
abuse us
tenants.
as far
They
as that
did.
goes.
We only had a couple, like I said, that
We had a
that
couple
didn't.
bad apples try to take advantage
Sure.
of the situation, but surprisingly, everybody was willing to pay. I mean, I guess they
knew
they
you'd have to
knew
pay
once you
eventually.
get out of the apartment
Right.
at that point, how you're going to get another apartment.
Yeah.
So I guess they knew I can't
Yeah.
burn my bridge here because where am I going to go?
Right.
So, but
So in wrapping up, what's next? So how close are we to the 100 units? Last time we chatted, you have what, 55 or
We
something?
have 53.
53,
That's where we're sitting
okay.
right now. We're
Yep.
still looking for a deal. I mean,
We're looking.
there's stuff on the market, but it's just all equity plays right now. So we're still
Yeah.
trying to find
we
that
looked at a
unicorn that's off the market.
What is it? 44 unit.
42 unit.
Sockesty deal? The green
Yeah.
roofs?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was underwriting that one this morning. Yeah.
I was like, this ain't gonna work. Not
The
even
numbers
close.
don't make sense. Not at what
The
they're
numbers aren't
asking.
real. That's
Oh,
it.
absolutely.
Nothing about that's real.
And some of the
Exactly. That's what I
performers
said.
are just worthless. You can
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
much say that's one big fat lie.
I hate
Yeah.
it
Until
when
you
they
get
have a
into the
pro forma that
numbers.
just has revenue and this is what our operating expense. Well, give me your breakdown of expenses so I can see if this is real or not.
Yeah.
They're not gonna give it to you until
Yeah.
you get under contract.
Yeah.
But you gotta be a little more sophisticated and kind
Right.
of punch in numbers,
Mm-hmm.
kind of assume some things.
Oh yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you've already worked with some properties, you kind of know what's coming down
Oh
the
yeah,
hatch.
absolutely.
So you can kind of plug in those numbers without them even having to tell you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the goal going forward is definitely 100 apartments, and I'd like to stick to C class.
Yeah. We like C class. Once you get into A and B, there are definitely more equity plays and
Yeah.
things like that.
Compressed
You get more-
margins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get more cash on cash
We're
for
definitely
C.
more.
I mean, I'd like to stay away from D, even though our D property is
They're
a workhorse.
cash monsters.
It's
I was gonna say
actually-
it's a
Yeah.
workhorse.
They print money.
It actually makes probably more money than our C class.
Yeah.
But
When
it
all
has
said and
it
done.
has its different hurdles to jump as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
But the goal, I mean, right now we kind of put our pins down for the moment because
Yeah.
we don't really know with the interest rates how we're gonna make these deals cash flow.
Yeah.
We're still looking. Don't get me wrong.
Well, you have to look. You have
I
to
mean,
look
you
every
can-
day.
yeah, I'd love to
If we-
find
If we find some
yeah.
off-market deal,
yeah, ideally
we'll
it'd be
definitely
great
pull
to
the
find
trigger, but-
off market
but right now
owner finance.
nobody wants to sell. It seems that way.
Yeah.
And if they do want to sell, they're kind of just fishing. They're just like, who's crazy enough to take this?
Yeah, 100%. They're trying to get a bad buyer. Is
Yeah,
what they're trying to
exactly.
do. Trying to get lucky.
To get stupid money,
Yeah.
apparently.
But those bad buyers don't exist as much now because the money's not as cheap and you can't just be,
Exactly.
no one's throwing money around saying like, hey Johnny, like you're a syndicator, let's give you a ton of money.
Go
Like,
ahead.
can you get us 5% somewhere? Anyone can get you 5% with such cheap debt, but now like
5%, you can get that on a CD almost now.
you get on a treasury note right now almost. Yeah.
So it makes it tough when the cap rates are lower than interest rates.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
How do you justify that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, there's not a lot of money to be made right now out there, but there are deals in every environment. They just take more work right now, and I think that will play into folks like yours and ideally our hands too. Just because you have to run a good business now in this market, and hopefully for the next couple of years. I think the last bunch, it's like whether it's your Wall Street bets kind of that shows you, hey, this is probably not a good market, or like people trading, JPEGs of monkeys, NFT. Like it highlights to you at least that you can make money on anything because there's so much capital in every space, and I think it's just going to be different now, and it will work out, I think, for us and you guys for sure.
Yeah, in the next 12 to 18 months, we'll probably have something.
There you
in
go.
Contract.
Love it.
I think we're going to have a little bit of easing on prices. these people holding on to these properties with the interest rates going up. It's just not sustainable.
Well, we've run into
I don't know when it's
several.
going to happen, but I'd say I'd have to.
Well, the great thing is we have run into several in looking at our own properties and own deals and cold calling ourselves. Is we've run into a lot of older people who are just holding on to it just because you're making more money now, but they're getting in their mid 70s and close to 80, and they're going to be like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Yeah. And most people's children don't want to deal with it.
No.
They're like, nope, I just want the money.
But you have to be there when they're ready to sell it. Exactly. So that's what I do all day. It's like, these people aren't going to want to have that asset. That's nice, but like they need to remember to call Matt when they're like, hey, my son doesn't want it. Like they have to remember you, because that's the whole game. The small, or what we do, right? This mom and pop, under 100 unit deals, under 50 unit deals. Mm-hmm. Someone's dad built them, someone's granddad built. So they're this emotional, sentimental asset, but the kids don't care.
They don't.
So then it's how do you build a relationship with that owner, saying like, hey, I'm not going to bulldoze these and turn it into a parking lot. Like, I value this asset that your dad built, or whatever it is. Yeah, and when something does happen, you got to be the first guy that they call, or first lady they call.
True.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're doing it to us. I mean, you bring us coffee.
Yeah. Don't fall for the trick. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, Charlie. You got to be careful.
If we got in a pinch, I mean, like, we got to sell this now.
Hey, we can execute quickly. So if you need to, you do need
to.
So
you're doing the right thing. I mean, that's what
it's funny though. We look at it the same way.
Yeah.
We've talked about it several times. We have boys, and I'm like, I don't know if our boys will want to take over it. I really don't. Like, we joke, because my oldest son, we ask them all what they want to do, and he's like, I'm just waiting for y'all to die.
It's kind of morbid, but he was joking. He's got a dry sense of humor.
Very dry sense of humor.
It probably sounds worse.
Right.
You haven't been there. But
he's 13. Yeah. So
we'll give him room. Yeah, that's okay. Well, this was awesome. I think a good stopping point. I don't want to hog up your conference room here, too. But thanks for jumping on.
Sure, anytime.
Awesome.